Come to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is roll call. We'll start with Ms. Allison, who is filling in for Ken Minkavich, who is excused.
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Lloyd.
Here.
Mr. Frederick.
Here.
Chandler is present. We also have in attendance is Jim Wigenka from the Building Department and Carol Mays, City Planner. Next item is on the agenda is approval of the agenda for this evening.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Mr.
All right, we have a
Chairman,
motion by Mr. Fred. I'm sorry.
if I could add a couple things, under this item, if there is a way you want to entertain moving 5F, which is a temporary use for the deranged haunted attraction, this is something you guys have seen before. It's a renewal. We know it's going to be quick, so we wondered if we could move that
Oh, okay, yeah.
to ahead of A. And then I believe Mrs. Allison has something regarding item A that she wants you to take some action on.
Yes, due to a conflict, I would like to be excluded from this and abstain from this vote, please.
Just on that one.
Just
On
that
A.
one. Just TEMP 2021003, Sheridan Hotel Airport Parking.
All right. Do we need a motion for that?
You will, so you'll need a motion
Is there
on
someone,
approving that, you'll need a vote on approving the agenda with that change, and then a motion on
All
her
right.
request.
we'll start with the agenda first.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morris,
Second.
supported by Mr. Frederick, to approve the agenda as amended we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Frederick,
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd,
Yes.
Ms. Allison.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The agenda as amended has been approved. I would need a motion to support the request by Ms. Allison to be excused from, to be abstained from item A on the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Morris to excuse
Thank you.
Ms. Allison. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That motion has been approved. All right, moving on. We'll go to item F on the agenda. It's a temporary for 2022-003 for deranged haunted attraction. Would the petitioner come forward? And welcome again. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you guys as well. My name is Mike Feeney. I'm proposing the temporary usage of 35560 Goddard Road for deranged haunted attraction. This year we intend to be open September 16th through Halloween, primarily on the weekends. I think we have one or two weekdays mixed in that was sent over on the schedule. In September we plan on opening from 8 till 10 p.m. with October's from 8 till 11:30 on Fridays and Saturdays, with Sundays at 8 to 10 p.m. as well. This is the 5th year we've been doing this, and I really appreciate you guys' approval in the past. I'd just like to say thank you guys for everything you guys have done thus far. So everything this year is rather similar to the way it's been in the past, where guests will arrive, they will be greeted by a parking attendant, will then either purchase their tickets at the box office or check in if they had previously purchased tickets online. At that point, we will continue to implement the virtual queue line, which is something we've done in the past. That was something we implemented in 2020 due to COVID, and we found our customers really enjoy being able to wait in their vehicles. So we plan on continuing that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing else happens or spurs up with COVID pandemic, but we have that in place just in case. Groups this year will still be groups of 6 or less, as they have been in the past. Customers will read the rules and warnings prior to entering the attraction, making note that there will be no open flames, no food or drink, or no running inside of the attraction. As done in the past, our attraction will be powered with generators. Most of the lighting inside the attraction is LED-based lighting, but we will have battery power backups. We're using over 10 fire extinguishers this year, 8 inside the attraction, 2 on the building itself that is located on the property. That building is not intended for any public use, but there is use amongst us for actors and staff. Most of our ticket sales are done online, but we do offer tickets available in person as well. We like to use the online method as it gives us a great opportunity to gauge the type of attendance we'll be receiving that evening. On that site, we have 43 temporary parking spots as well as 3 additional barrier-free parking spots. And on September 16th, we also do plan to open a little later due to that being the Parade of Lights. We plan on opening at 9 p.m. that evening instead of 8 p.m. Again, I would like to thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, I'd like to open that up now.
All right, thank you. Well, notices have been sent out for this public hearing as per the state law, and an affidavit of the mailing is on file. We'll close that portion of the hearing and open it up for the board members for any questions or comments. How was your attendance last year?
Slightly down than the prior year, but it's still been pretty steady for us.
Yeah. What, do you have any kind of security measures there at all?
Yeah, we have a few people on site that kind of double as parking and security. We have been in contact with a couple local security companies in case we decide that there needs to be a need for security, additional security. But at this point, our parking attendants as well as our staff on site just keeping an eye on everything, it seemed to be enough.
Sounds good.
Just,
Mr. Frederick?
you give the best presentations.
Thank you.
That's all
We
I have
always,
to say.
we always tell him he's going to do a
Always good.
training class.
Mr. Chairman?
So all the rest of you.
I was gonna
Mr.
say,
Morris?
you know, it's remarkably similar to his other presentations.
It is.
Just a little bit shorter each year, I think.
Very good anyway.
Thank you.
You know, with regard to your question on security, we did check with the police department, and there's not, there weren't any incidents, nothing reported, no, you know. Runs a good show.
That's a good show.
Did you have a question, Mr. Frederick?
No, I was just,
Well, if no other questions or comments, a motion's in order.
make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve TEMP -2022-003 to arrange haunted attractions at 35560 Goddard Road. Once again.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Lloyd, to approve the request for temporary use for a deranged haunted attraction. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes,
Chair votes yes. Your request has been approved.
Thank you, appreciate it.
See you there.
Good luck.
All right. We didn't have a motion for the approving our minutes.
so moved.
You're right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morris, supported by Mr. Frederick, to approve the minutes of the Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting held on June 1st, 2022. Roll call vote. Mr. Morris?
Yes,
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Those minutes have been approved. Item 5 is under petitions. Is a temporary petition for 2021-003 for Sheraton Hotel Airport parking. The location is at 8,000 Merriman Road. The parcel ID is 80-037-99-0028-710. And the request is a temporary use approval in accordance with Section 22.03E, temporary uses and buildings of the zoning ordinance, to allow approximately 230 of the 539 parking spaces on the property to be temporarily used for park and fly parking spaces. This petition was postponed at the June 1st, 2022 meeting and the project is use of an existing parking lot for Park and Fly. Will the petitioner come forward? Give us your name.
Good evening. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, I'll retain my mask on if that's okay with you.
Could you speak directly into the mic as best you can?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to submit again. I'd like to introduce Jordan Cooper, who's our general manager from the hotel, who's joining me today. As a matter of a quick recap from our last submission on early in June, if I could step back for a moment, I'd like to comment that we acquired the Marriott Hotel first in October of 2016 and the Sheraton Hotel in October of 2018. And our intent was and remains to be a long-term owner and a partner with this community and this city. The ownership group that I represent have had assets that they've continued to own for decades, and it's our expectation that we would do the same with the city. We have made significant commitments and hope that we can continue to be a partner with you in the city. Over the time of the pandemic, of course, our industry was hit very hard. As the largest hotel outside of the West End in the market, we were particularly hard hit because we cater primarily to a lot of corporate business. And of course, we have a very heavy overhead as a result of our size. During that time, and in fact even earlier, we were contemplating alternate uses for the extra capacity, as you read out earlier on. Our typical usage and demand for parking at full capacity is 300, according to the guidelines. Because of the extent of airline business and crew and traffic that's airport related that we do, our typical demand for parking is more like 150. The lot that we have is 549. So our intent was to explore optimal uses for that extra capacity. And then, of course, when the pandemic began and the challenges that we all faced at that time, we put in an application for Park and Fly. And that has been a very important part to help us navigate through the last 2 years. And that brings us to where we are today. During the last meeting, we were presented with several staff comments. We have gone back and taken a close look at all of those comments, and we believe that we've made a very genuine effort to try to address all of those points that were raised. And if you would indulge me, I'll just walk through them and flag those. The first one was fencing. When we met in June, we were seeking a waiver for this request and this requirement. We've gone back and explored options, and we believe that we can provide fencing. And we propose to provide 6-foot high fencing across the perimeter of the Park and Fly area. In order to accommodate this, we had to reduce the footprint from 200 stalls down to 172. And that allows us to provide for good access and circulation throughout the entire site, both through the parking area as well as through the immediate rear of the building. So we have now reduced the footprint down to 172 stalls. In addition, there was a request for barrier-free parking. We've provided for that, and that's included in the 172 car count that we're requesting. Security, that was the other point that was raised. Part of that question was to have this fenced area fully gated. In exploring how we might be able to provide for that, we believe that at the north end of that fenced-in area, which as far as the fenced-in area is concerned is sort of in the northeast area of the fence, we can provide a gate. We propose that gate would be locked and that we would have a Knox box so that the fire department can gain access into that parking area. For customers and guests, we're proposing that they use an open gate area at the southern portion of that fence. We propose to have security by way of cameras that would be high-definition cameras that would provide visibility across the entire, across the entire area that we're discussing, but that would be open. In addition to that, we will upgrade the lighting in the parking area so that there would be significantly improved illumination across that entire park area. We're also going to be providing cameras with a 30-day video storage capacity as requested, and of course that would be open and available to the police department on request. Additional to that, as more security, we have already got 24-hour security at the hotel because our staff is there during the daytime. In the evening, we already have a security guard who patrols both the exterior as well as the interior. Supplementing this, and starting last year, we contracted with a outside security company, Prudential Command, who provide overnight security with an unarmed security officer and a patrol vehicle. So we have them focusing just on the exterior, and that is current and ongoing. And of course, by having it fenced, there will be a much greater opportunity for them to patrol the cars that are parked for park and fly, as well as, of course, the rest of our lot. Lighting, we talked about. We're going to be significantly upgrading that. We'll provide a photometric plan. If this is approved, we'll go ahead and present that as well and be compliant with the city needs for that. The next point was the parking lot, and there was a comment on the condition of the parking lot. We propose to patch, seal, and restripe the entire parking lot. So we'll bring that up to a much improved condition from what it is today. Signage, we propose to provide a signage plan to the city for approval so that we can direct the park and fly traffic to the appropriate area at the back of the building. Landscaping, there was a comment that the southern border of our lot had only partial landscaping. Somewhere over time, I think the very western half of the lot lost some of its landscaping. We propose to upgrade that and extend the landscaping all the way across the southern border. The next item was permit resolutions. There were some open permits. We asked for Jim to visit the hotel and to inspect any open permits. I look forward to his comments. I was notified by our chief engineer that Jim appeared to be satisfied by his walk, but we'll look forward to his comments. The other open permit was some cell towers, the permits that had been pulled in 2021. The towers are actually, prior to us taking over, were sold to a company called American Tower. So we don't control any of the work or the permits that relate to anything they do on the roof. We did reach out to American Tower, and they've reached out to Verizon to confirm whether or not those permits can be closed out or not. So we've made the request on multiple occasions. The other open permit was a pylon sign that was installed prior to us taking over. It seems like that was open. We did reach out to them. They've gone ahead and closed that. They've confirmed to us that they've closed that permit. So to the best of our knowledge, we believe that those permits have now been closed. The other item required was liability coverage. We have reached out with Parkway Parking. They have provided additional coverage for cars that are parked in the lot that are sold through them, and everything goes through them. And we, of course, have coverage under our policy for vehicles on our lot. Taxes, we have registered to pay the parking tax. It's collected and paid every month, and we continue to do that. We have an exact, audited, itemized record of every parking item or every vehicle that is sold, parking space to, and we use that to remit our portion of the tax. The last item was the demobilization of whatever work we do to secure this temporary use, and we commit that we'll do that. The fencing is pretty much the primary item that will need to be taken down. Cameras, lighting, of course, all of those things, and landscaping would remain. But we would certainly take down the fencing and repair any areas that are required to be repaired. So I think we have made a very genuine effort to try to address the requirements of the staff that were presented to us, and we hope that you will view this application favorably. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Notices have been sent out for this public hearing per the state law, and an affidavit of mailing is on file. At this time, we'll close this portion of the meeting and open it up for the public for questions or comments. If nobody, Sir, did you want to come up to the podium?
Yes, please.
Give us your name and speak directly into the microphone.
Yes, hi. My name's Tim Feldy. I'm the general manager at Airlines Parking. I believe I presented a statement to all of you. I'd like to read that now. Okay. Dear distinguished board members, as I said, my name's Tim Feldy. I'm with Airlines Parking, 8325 Merriman Road, Romulus. I'm here today to address the Board of Zoning Appeals application temp-2021-003, an item submitted by the Sheraton Hotel requesting temporary permission for long-term park-and-fly parking. In response to the submission by the Sheraton, the police, fire, and building departments had several conditions that have not been met. These were some of the same concerns this board had, and there has been no resolution in full. The building department required asphalt replacement, not patching and sealing, but the actual replacement of that existing pavement. The police department required an increased level of security, which includes installation of a fenced-in area with a gate. This is to control access in and out of that facility for security reasons. So not a fenced-in area with an open gate. The fire department required hydrant access and a circulation plan. In the most recent submission, the Sheraton proposes to patch and seal the asphalt, install a fence with no gate, and have not met the fire department condition, and thus have not met the recommendations to the satisfaction of the Administrative Review Committee. The June agenda called for a temporary 6-month permit for parking. This August submission calls for a 1-year permit. The Sheraton has been operating without permission and with no consequence. The ordinance is being broken, and there is no policing in the park-and-fly parking. What policing and enforcement will there be in the future? Many businesses, including ours, have been adversely affected by COVID and the reduction in air travel and are still feeling the negative effects. This submission is taking advantage of an environment COVID brought, with reduced city staff able to enforce those regulations and ordinances. This board has concerns over copycat use. How will the board handle other hotel operators applying for temporary use? This board questioned what the alternative use would be, and that question has never been answered, and this is still not clear. However, the Sheraton is already building in their own extension by saying they will get back to the board in 12 to 18 months. Approval for temporary parking should not be permitted. It is not in the best interest of the city for the following reasons. One, there are existing businesses currently licensed and approved for Park and Fly. Two, if approved, other hotels will copycat and apply for their own temporary usage permits. Three, the existing Park and Fly ordinance has not been used and followed, including a market study with supporting documents. Four, non-compliance of the department requirements. The August 3 summary report states that because the request is temporary, many of the conditions of the ordinance are not applicable. Respectfully, who is responsible for making the decision that they do not have to comply? Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Respectfully, Tim Falvey, General Manager, Caroline's Park.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else in the audience want to speak on this? If not, I've got another letter to read into the record. This is from David Allison, Fire Chief, and it's comments on their submission for temporary use for a Park and Fly parking area. He says, the circulation plan submitted appears to be in compliance. A gate shall be provided for access to the southwest fire hydrant to the proposed Park and Fly area. Concerns about not having total secured area with a gate on the southwest area. Minimum width of the gates for the fire department access shall be 20 feet in width. Should you require additional information on the subject, please contact me. Signed, David Allison. And at this time, we also have Jim McGanka from the Building Department. Do you have any comments on this parking lot issue?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I would have to ask the owner, when we did the inspection originally in June, and the parking lot, there's a lot of areas that need replacement, not just repair. So we need to know the extent of what you're trying to accomplish by, or what you're stating as patching. Putting down some cold patch, tamping it down really won't suffice as a repair to what needs to be done. And that includes around some of the areas where the catch basins are located. So we do need a plan of action here from you as to what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and that probably should come through an engineer or a qualified contractor who can handle this project. That's one thing. The permits have been addressed for the most part. When you mentioned towers, those are actually antennas fastened to the structure at the top of the roof. They're at roof level. And all that has been addressed, all the antennas. There are several of them. There is one outstanding open permit which is being addressed by another person in our building department, which is being handled through your building engineer. So all of that has been addressed. The building department's, the main concern right now is the parking area. That definitely, and you have photos of that, so you can see where our concerns lie. It's more of a safety concern, not just for vehicles, but pedestrians. And you'll see it around the curbs, in the actual proposed parking area for the Park and Fly, around the building, pretty much the entire property. So that needs to be addressed, and we need your plan of action, something submitted, to see what will be done to remedy this problem. And as far as I can maybe help clarify with Fire Chief Allison. I believe there's a hydrant located or is located inside a proposed fenced area?
It's outside.
Is it, that's outside, okay. The fire department, I can't speak entirely on his behalf, but they do need access to the hydrant, whether it's for the parking area or for the hotel itself. So that was his concern.
If I could comment, please.
Please.
I just want to point out the fact that these photos that were taken of the parking lot show some really bad spots. They're not just potholes, they're areas of that parking lot that are really extremely bad. We got them on record here.
We
Go ahead.
actually, we did speak with a company that was going to, there's a fairly significant amount of area that they're going to fill. So they tell us that they can level that parking lot off. Now, to the point where all of those depressed areas or where the pavement is cracked, that they would repair all of that. So we'll be happy to provide you with a plan on exactly what they propose to do.
Yeah, we would need a plan of action to see what's going to be done, and also included a striping plan as well. Because you have just not the striping for the proposed parking area, but for accessibility, the handicap parking spaces. And that's very important, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
The striping as well for the handicap parking?
Yes.
Because we're talking about the entire lot, not just the proposed
Entire lot.
park and fly,
Yes.
correct?
We're doing the entire lot.
Okay, so we would need a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would do that.
Thank you.
At this point in time, we'll open up to the board members for questions or comments.
So I do have a question for Mr. Falvey. Just a quick question. How many stalls or lots does Airlines Parking have?
Can you talk into the microphone, please, because it doesn't get picked up on TV or on the minutes? Sorry.
Approximately 6,500.
Thank you.
What's any other? Did you have any else?
Anything else, Brian?
And just to clarify, the request is for a one-year temporary permit, not 6 months?
That is right. We request a year, which would make it a little more viable for us to make sure we get all of these requirements met.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Morris?
I guess this is to the planner. Ever since this began, I've been trying to figure out how many other hotels has Park and Fly?
Legally or illegally? Or both? It comes and goes.
Both?
It comes and goes, so our ordinance
I
department
mean,
is.
like I said, you, in order to do this, other hotels have gotten a permit to do this?
No, not of this nature, certainly not of temporary use. In the last several years, you guys would have seen it. There is one, I believe, that did get it a long time ago. But no, most of the hotels do not have this.
And like I said, I
No.
guess, I'm supposed to know this, but what does a Romulus ordinance say about Park and Fly at hotels?
It's allowed
It's allowed, okay.
with special land use approval. So
With
with
what?
special land use approval. So it's got to go to the planning commission for a public hearing, and then it's got to go to city council. And there are also some very, there's conditions on them. The security measures that were mentioned tonight, those are right from the ordinance. A brand new site has got all sorts of, buffers and gatehouses and all sorts of conditions with that. The big one is anything new's got to go in a structure. Anything over 50 spaces have to go in a structure now. A market study needs to be done showing that there's a demand for Park and Fly in the city, that what's there is inadequate. Traffic study needs to be done. So it's a special land use, but it's an involved special land use.
So they've been doing this for, I don't know how long, but Did they go to the planning commission?
No, this is for a temporary use. They're not asking for special land use because they're not asking for it to be permanent, because I think, as he mentioned, they're looking, it's a big piece of property, and they're looking at other potential development opportunities for that outlot in the future. So that's why he's asking for temporary at this time.
Okay.
So that's the process. He has the right to do that.
How many actual park and fly sites do we have? Were they just strictly park and fly?
Legal and illegal.
The law. Those are
No,
all
I don't
legal.
mean
Those
the
are all legal.
hotels,
It's, actually,
parking
Julie, you
lots,
might
but
know,
just
how many long-term parking, different long-term parking lots are there?
There are 4 that are currently open. There are many that are currently closed due to lack of need. I can tell you there's currently 3 parking facilities that are licensed in the city of Romulus that are not open because we don't have a need for it right now. And there are 4 that are operating long-term.
All right, thank you.
This is a call I get, at least once a week, once or twice a week. People stumble upon the fact that Romulus has got an airport. They think they're going to come and start up this great new use that we've never heard of. And as soon as they get into the ordinance, and I think you confirmed it with the market study, that seems to be, the market study's tripping people up. Nobody can prove any numbers. And the whole issue, if it's anything new, is clearly with the structure. So
Thank you.
it's a difficult one. So.
Any other questions or comments?
So, I guess one more comment.
Mr. Lloyd?
Sure, thank you. So I think the new proposal is, if I did the math, it's a 14% reduction in what you initially asked, from 200 stalls initially to now to 172. I think that's useful, because my initial concern was the impact to the surrounding parking flies, as Mr. Falvey alluded to. When you think about the 172 stalls that you're proposing, is like a little under 3% of the 6,500 stalls that you all have, and it's an even smaller percentage of the greater available parking stalls. I think that actually helps the position, saying it's a minimal impact to the surrounding parking flies. My one concern is all the comments that were made about the parking lot and the condition of the parking lot. So having a 1-year approval, I'm not sure that keeps you all accountable for making the repairs that we're discussing. I think maybe a shorter term would be more appropriate. Just an idea.
Thank you.
We are requesting, if I may, a 12-month period, because the cost of installing the fencing and all of the other cameras and upgrading, becomes more viable when we have a 12-month window. With a 6-month window, that becomes very challenging for us to be able to make that work. So that's the reason for the 12-month request. And as far as the parking lot is concerned, I hear you very clearly. We'll certainly present a plan. We did get several bids, and we're anticipating working with a firm that is actually going to do a fairly extensive repair. And since we are considering an alternate use, and we're exploring what that is, we're also being mindful that we're not sort of replacing the entire parking lot, because if we choose to do something different on that space within 12 months or 18 months or whenever we're able to identify and source a use, we will, of course, have to make significant changes to that parking lot to accommodate that.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Morris?
I see a problem with that, though, is we're doing this, you're doing this park and fly right now, and, we have no idea how long it's going to take just to fix it. And, because I don't think you could do that. So this, this thing just goes on and on and on.
So when we checked with them, and that's a very valid point, when we checked with them about, I think 4 weeks ago, they said that it would be about 2 to 3 weeks. So I think all things considered, I would imagine that, it shouldn't be very long. I think they indicated to us that they could move pretty quickly. And we would confirm that.
I've got another question for Mr. Falvey.
Yes, sir.
How does the hotel park and fly affect your business?
Basically, your earlier question about how many parking lots are in existence right now, 4 that are operating, several that aren't. There's not a need for additional parking. Most of the off-site parking lots, not just myself, but most of the off-site parking lots do park and fly programs with the hotels. We're already providing that function. So do you need more parking if you have parking lots that aren't being used right now? I told you I have 6,500 spots. I'm not full, okay? I've got plenty of room to park cars. As a matter of fact, this time of the year, I'd be lucky to be half full. We don't need more parking out here at this point in time at the airport. That's how the impact of adding additional parking is taking away business from, long-standing goodwill businesses that have been established here in Romulus.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a point through the chair here.
Mr. Frederick?
Chief Allison's concerns about not having a gate shall be provided for access to the southwest fire hydrant to the proposed park and fly area. There's no gate down here, and the hydrant is outside the fence.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So there is no gate here. That's
Right. The only gate's up on the north.
yes, on the north side up here. That'll be locked with a Knox box. Down here, there is no gate, which is a concern that there's no gate, but if there's no gate, then you don't need I hate to say it, a gate to get to the fire hydrant, because there isn't a fence there.
Correct.
I just used an
He's talking about the security concerns, I think, with the need
I
for
know,
the
but I
gate.
said a gate shall be provided for access to the southwest fire hydrant to the proposed park and fly area. But it's not fenced in right there.
No.
So that's kind of a neat point.
So, and I guess move on to the next one.
But I'm just bringing it to attention because
Right,
it's in the letter.
right, we're aware of it.
I think there was an earlier sketch of this, and it showed a gate there, I believe. On the previous sketch, the previous site plan,
Back in
I
June,
believe it
perhaps.
showed a gate on there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I guess we got to make a decision here on where we stand with this proposal. I see some flaws of it. It's like,
Well, at minimum, anything would need to be reviewed administratively. There are a lot of loose ends that would need, everything that Mr. Waginga brought up, clarification on that gate, the lighting plan we haven't seen yet. So there's certainly a lot of additional things to see.
I think that at this point in time, a proper motion is in order. Regarding some of these issues.
A motion to approve or a
Well,
motion
that's
to deny?
Your choice.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, for lack of a motion.
Well, I guess I'd just like to make a comment that this is my own feelings, that I think this is unfair competition to the existing park and fly long-term parking lots. They don't have hotels to back them up. They just rely on their parking spaces. So that's just my own feeling on this. So take it for what it's worth.
I'll say that was my initial concern, but when you look at the numbers, I do think that it's pretty minimal impact. I mean, I look at it as the hotel has just as much of a right to, make profits where they can as the parking flies. I guess my concern is that a year-long approval, we don't have any mechanism of holding them accountable for actually repairing the parking lot to the way that we would like it to be. I guess that's my main concern.
To the petitioner, just a quick question through the chair. You did say that to access your parking spots, it's all done on phones and reservation, correct?
Yes, the reservations are made online.
Made online, so it's not like people are driving down the road and pull in and ask?
No. These are all by reservations ahead of time.
I remembered you said that back in June. Okay, that's all I have at this time, thank you. I'm going to make a motion.
Just another tidbit. This is probably more for the applicant's benefit tonight. With a board of only 4, you've got to get 3 of the 4 votes. So, that extra spot, if it is going to be a split vote, sometimes you guys have had that before where, remember Mr. Chandler used to warn people, you got to get so many of this, and sometimes they want to come back, when the whole board's here. But I don't know if that's even relevant in this case. But I do know you used to say it all the time. So.
Can I ask you, Carol, this is to you, a question. So if we were to approve, is this the final hurdle, or would they have to actually present the plan for the, because we keep saying, we think it'll be a good amount of time and it'll be timely, and we think we'll have a pretty robust plan, but as of right now, we don't have it. Is there a requirement?
Right now, there's some things missing from the application. As he mentioned, the lighting plan, we don't have that yet. We can approve that administratively. Mr. Waginka's talking about an engineered, plan to deal with the pavement. That obviously hasn't been prepared yet. Would need to be done. The landscaping plan looks like it's in pretty good order, but we would check that a little further. We'd certainly want to circle it back around to the fire chief to make sure, and there would need to be, if that is indeed, a requirement for a provision of a gate, we're going to need to see that on a plan. So, with regard to the timing, you have a right to grant anything up to a year. So if you're questioning the timing, that becomes your decision. There will be mechanisms in place to stop it once that date comes about, whatever you picked. If that is a requirement on this, it's a permit, and the permit would expire, and they would have to cease, or you'd go write a ticket. So.
Just another point I remember from June through the chair to the petitioner. I remember you said back in June that with your lot was like full, that you would refer the business to the other lots in the area.
Yes, we do that at the Marriott as well. Whenever anybody comes in for a park and fly, for example, we follow the protocol that was already established. We do not let them park. We refer them to a park and fly facility. In fact, we purchase the coupons that you have, and we sell them the coupons, and they drive the car over to the park and fly lot. So that is the protocol, and that's what we followed. The reason why we are doing this here, and if I just raise a really critical point, we're one of the few hotels that has this excess capacity, which others generally do not. So that's one of the reasons why we're motivated to try to find an optimal use for this. This is a temporary bridge gap, And, just as it has been difficult for others, it has also been very, very challenging for us over the course of the last little while. Because we do provide 24-hour shuttle to the airport every 15 minutes. And so, this really helps us offset some of those costs, which when it's slow, we are burdened by that cost as well, but we can't drop that service. We still have to do it, and of course, it's the same for you as well. So this really helps us to just manage that a little bit better, notwithstanding the fact that, we've got a substantial overhead to carry. And so for the number of stalls that we're using, it's really quite small, but it does have a significant impact for us to help offset our expenses as well, which have been very challenging. And I think I mentioned this last time, this market is trailing recovery from elsewhere, and it's expected to be at least 2025 before corporate demand returns to this market. So we're looking at a fairly extended period of time where we will be suboptimal in our operations, especially with the size of our building.
Okay, just another quick question is, so your shuttle van to and from the airport, do you go to like airport parking and pick up your guests that would have their car over there?
No.
They would
No.
shuttle over to you?
No.
How do they get to the car?
So what happens is if a guest comes and stays overnight and they're going to be staying for an extra, or they're going to be traveling for 3 or 4 days, they'll buy a parking pass from us and drive to one of the park and fly locations, park their car there, and use their shuttle to go to the airport and return.
Gotcha. All right, thank you very much. I'll make a motion to accept.
It's up to you. Go ahead.
At this time, through the chair, I'd like to make a motion that we grant TEMP 2021-003 Sheraton Airport parking, temporary 1-year use of existing park and fly use of the lot for the 172 spots.
A second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Lloyd, to approve or grant the temporary use at Sheraton Hotel Airport parking. It's a temporary use for up to, 12 months?
It says there, it's 1 year.
Or one year. And for the parking lot size of 172 spaces. Any other questions on this motion? If not, take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
No.
Chair votes no, too. I can't, it's not granted because of lack of support. The reason I voted no is because I think the competition is unfair between that type of hotel, park and fly, and the existing long-term parking lots. I think if the petitioner can come up with some other plan for his parking lot, can take it to the planning department and come up with that. Any comments? No. All right. That portion is closed. Next item on the agenda is under item B, and the project is for BZA 2022-002 for Romulus Corporate Park Building Number 3 and that's for Scannell Properties. And the location is at 32250 Smith Road. The parcel ID is 80-038-99-0002-0703. And their request is a variance from section 8.04A for area height and placement requirements of the zoning ordinance to increase the allowable building height from 35 feet to 38 feet. It's for a warehouse distribution building. And the project is construction of a new 243,770 square foot office warehouse. Will the petitioner come forward, please? This one.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jim Butler with PEA Group. Address is 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326. Sorry, we just moved, so trying to still get that address correct. I'm here on behalf of Scannell Properties, requesting a 3-foot variance to a proposed building. The building was site plan approved back in June of last year. We did go back in and get a revised site plan approval for the building. It is a 22.6 acre parcel of land, which is contained within what is known as the Romulus Corporate Park, which was a 60 acre development. That development was rezoned back in 2002 to 2020 from to M1 conditionally. This parcel is within that zoning district. Also, to note that the parcel, the whole Romulus Corporate Park, also has the Vining Road overlay district to it. As you mentioned, it's a 243,000 square foot building. Is located on the north side of Smith Road. It is located to the east of the previously developed PFG building that was just constructed last year. To note that building and the Amazon building to the north, the fulfillment center, did also receive height variances for their projects. We do have a large berm along the Smith Road that would screen the building. The other point that I'd like to bring out is in the Vining Road Overlay District, we are permitted to have, we are allowed to have a building that's 55 feet high. We're proposing one that's 38 feet high. The PFG building next door is also 38 feet. Like I said, they did receive a variance. So to be consistent with what Amazon received and what PFG received, we are requesting a 3-foot variance in height for this building. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Please.
Eli Miller with Scannell Properties as well.
Okay. All right, we'll move along. Notices of
Ask
this.
them some hard questions.
Sorry.
Ask them some hard questions.
Please. Thanks, Carol.
Well, notices of this public hearing have been sent out or mailed per the state law, and an affidavit of mailing is on file. And we'll close that portion of the hearing and open it up to the public for questions, concerns. Anybody out there like to talk about this? If not, we'll open it up to the board members for questions or comments. Anybody have anything to say about this?
Is B, C, and D all the same thing?
Well, it's for height, they're all for the height, but they're different buildings. There's-
No, but I mean, they're the same company and all that good stuff?
They're,
No.
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 Okay. Well, that's why I was trying to get straightened
Yeah,
out.
those are the buildings that are to the west of PFG.
Okay.
The parcels have been sold,
Yeah.
so you probably remember, probably when he was here, you were here for Amazon, and then you did
Yeah.
Vistar too, didn't you?
We did.
So at that time, Vistar would have been buying the middle piece, which is there and operational, but the other 2 pieces on each side have been sold off, so you're going to be seeing the other new property owner after for the property with the 2 buildings, so.
So these, like say, B, Building 3, Corporate Park B, Scannell Properties, that's, you know, it's within all the right zoning and...
Yes, they're all in compliance. It's been approved. Mr. Waginkin can talk to you a little bit more about where things are at. You can see from the picture, I think we just got an air map. I don't know if you could tell that, but we got some new aerials in our, so as you can see, they are pushing
That's
dirt
good.
around, getting going, and
That's good. Then,
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'd want to, you know, make
you could
sure
ask them
that
if they have a
everything's done.
tenant.
I just want to make sure everything's done.
Ask them if they have a tenant.
Huh?
Ask them if they have a tenant.
Do you have a tenant?
Not this time, we have several prospects, though.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, we'll give you our
normally
phone
ask that.
numbers and let us know. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, to the petitioner, you've also requested this through the FAA as well, correct? Have you revisited that with the FAA?
That is correct. We filed variances with the FAA both for, during the construction process on a temporary basis and for the permanent structure, and there's been negative determination, so no impact to the airspace.
Thank you.
We ready? Any other questions?
We're looking for like a 3 feet variance, right?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve BZA-2022-002 Romulus Corporate Park Building 3, Scannell Properties at 32250 Smith Road.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Morris, supported by Mr. Lloyd, excuse me, to approve the request for a height variance from 35 feet to 38 feet for the Romulus Corporate Park Building Number 3, Scannell Properties at 32250 Smith Road, and the variance is from 35 feet to 38 feet. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Morris?
Yes?
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That request has been approved.
Thank you very
You've
much.
got 3 feet more to go.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Item C on the agenda is for BZA 2022-003, Romulus Corporate Park Building A. This is for Opus Development Company. That's location at Smith Road. Parcel ID is 80-038-99-0002-705. And the request is a variance from section 8.04A for area height and placement requirements of the zoning ordinance to increase the allowable building height from 35 feet to 38 feet on the west elevation. Are the petitioner?
Yes,
Give us your
good-
name.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Mike Robinson. I'm with Opus Development. I put together a small presentation about Opus. I did this a couple weeks ago at the site plan approval. I don't know if we need to go through all that, but very quickly, Opus has been developing buildings for over 65 years, headquartered in Minneapolis. I'm out of the Chicago office. We've been pursuing sites in Michigan for 2 years now. This is our second development. We closed on this site in June. The site was already brought to the site plan approval, or brought for site plan approval by Kajayan, the previous owner. We kept on the same civil, which is PEA Group, and Jim Butler will come back and support me here in a second. And then we also kept on our architect, FA Studios. We do have in-house architecture and engineering. We do have in-house design build. Our design build uses all local subcontractors. So our site here, I don't know if we can scroll through this. I don't know if I can have control. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
You could skip another one. So those are our offices. We're basically in the Midwest. What we've done over the 65 years, we've been all over the U.S., but now we've kind of centralized our focus in the Midwest, including Phoenix and Denver. You can go to the next slide as well. I commented on the three groups that are within that make up Opus Group, and that's the development company which I'm part of, design build, and then also the architecture and engineering. That's me. I think you saw this last time. You can go past this. And so here's our site plan. So we are requesting a height variance. Building A is the building that is on the west. It's 100,000 square feet. That one we are requesting a variance to go to 38 feet. Very similar to Skinell, Vistar, Amazon. They've received the same variance. And then on the building on the east, building B, this is a little bit bigger building, 174,000 square feet, a little deeper, and we're requesting a 40-foot variance, so five extra feet on building B. So I'd like to open it up for any questions.
All right, thank you. The same mailings applied that were sent out for this public hearing. We'll close that portion and open it up to the public for questions or comments. Nobody wants to talk about it, and we'll open it up for the board members. I just have one quick question. What's the need for 3 more feet on that?
So we have a 32-foot clear building, which is a market standard for buildings, and so that's what the tenants are looking for. And so with that, the roof and the space between underneath the sprinklers and then the roof slope gets it to, so the building on the west can stay underneath 38 feet, and then the building on the east is a little deeper, so we need a little bit more slope, and that's a little over 39 feet.
Okay.
And one thing we can do to help minimize this need is to use a 1/8 inch per foot roof slope as opposed to a 1/4 inch per foot. That's what we do on all our buildings across the country. But with our architect here, he recommended that 1/4 inch is what's typically used. So we're going to have that discussion later, but I don't know, Jim, you might be able to comment on that as well. But that's, that's the reasoning for a little extra on building B because it's a little deeper.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morris.
first of all, I want to apologize for lumping your buildings in with the prior one.
It's all right. We're all going for the same thing.
But they are kind of similar.
I want to thank you for asking if they had any tenants. I was hoping they'd throw a name out there.
So the one, the building B, that's 5 feet more, so you got all the approvals from the airport and everything? Okay. I don't want them running into it. Thank you.
Well, we should ask him the same question. Do you have a tenant?
No, but we did propose to a tenant last week. And that's for building A, the smaller one. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions, comments?
Just a comment, I appreciate your explanation of the need, particularly with the 2 buildings being different variances. That was a good explanation. I've lived here my whole life, so I understand how heavy our snow gets, so I completely understand.
Thanks. This one being the last one of this group, part of the, Jerry probably knows this from being on Planning Commission, but part of the conditional rezoning in the Vining Road Overlay District is that this area is to be kind of a campus-type development, that things were consistent and compatible and all that. So with the heights all around being granted the variances. And again, as was pointed out, the binding road overlay does allow it to go to 55. So this is an M1 standard, and because of the conditional rezoning, that's why we've got to go through this. But this one, since Vistar got the variance, Building 3, and then this, so it makes logical sense as well, to have them consistent. Not that this few feet would make a difference, but it's all compatible and consistent and going to look very nice when it's all done.
Just a comment to go along with that, I've never understood flat roofs in Michigan. So to have a slope, if it needs it, makes sense. Just get it off the roof.
All right, moving right along. Is there a motion in order?
Make a motion.
Mr. Frederick?
Through the chair, make a motion to grant BZA-2022-003 Romulus Corporate Park Building A, Opus Development Company, the variance from building height from 35 feet to 38 feet on the west elevation.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Morris, to approve the request for a height variance for BZA 2022-003, Romulus Corporate Parking Building A, Opus Development Company, to increase the height requirement from 35 feet to 38 feet. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Allison?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That's been approved for that height. You got 3 feet.
Thank you.
Moving along to the next one, for BZA 2022-004, for Romulus Corporate Parking Building B, they're requesting a variance from Section 8.04A, area height and placement requirements for the zoning ordinance to increase the allowable building height from 35 feet to 40 feet. It'll be 40 feet on this one. On the east elevation for a 174,000 square foot warehouse distribution building. Subject property is zoned conditional M1, light industrial, and is located on Smith Road, parcel 80038-99-002-705 in the Vining Road Sub-Area Overlay District. Anything to say about this one, too?
I kind of included that in the same discussion, is that this one just needs a little extra height because it's steeper, and so there's more runoff.
Okay, I think it's pretty self-explanatory on this one. Any,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morris?
I move we approve BZA-2022-004 Romulus Corporate Park Building B, Opus Development Company, a 5-foot variance from 35 feet height to 40 feet.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Morris, supported by Ms. Allison, to support, approve the variance for BZA 2022-004, Romulus Corporate Parking Building B, and their variance request is to height variance from 35 feet to 40 feet. Take a roll call vote. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That height variance has been approved for that building, too.
thank
Good
you
luck
very
with your
much.
project over there.
Good luck.
I appreciate the time, thank you.
Oh, what do we have here? Let's see. Okay, the next item on our agenda is BZA 2022-005 for Greg Weir, I believe, Weir Holdings, windshield replacement and calibration. The location is 36050 Goddard Road. The parcel ID is 80-8077-01-0002-000. And the Request is in accordance with Section 20.04B as change in use of the zoning ordinance. A request to utilize the property for a windshield replacement and calibration business, which is a change from a non-conforming use, currently an automobile detail shop, to another non-conforming use. Since automobile uses are not permitted in the Center Business District -2, anyway, the project is a windshield calibration and replacement business. Want to tell us about your project?
Good evening, how is everybody? I have to apologize for my voice, my allergies are driving me crazy recently. My name is Diane Lambert, and I am the business manager for Mr. Greg Weir for Weir Holdings Enterprises. I have with me Ed Zaderitz tonight. Mr. Weir, I'm sorry, say hi. Say hi.
Hello.
That's Ed, say hi. Mr. Weir is the owner of Prudential Security, which is the largest privately owned security, full-service security agency in this area. We operate in 26 states, and it's been very successful. As most successful business persons do, Mr. Weir has diversified his portfolio into other industries throughout the years. Currently, he was looking to open a windshield calibration service center. And he asked me, of all people, to find him a building. Okay, first thing I did was look around Romulus. Longtime Romulus resident, I'm gonna find a building in Romulus. Mr. Clark's building is perfect. It's perfect. It's at 36050 Goddard Road. The windshield calibration service is, if you have a higher model car with the cameras and the, I'm sorry, Ed, you do that. Ed, take over.
So most all windshields nowadays have some sort of camera or sensors involved in them right behind your rearview mirror. That little black box is a camera or sensor sensing road lines or a camera itself for other features in the car. Calibration that occurs when a windshield is broken and has to be replaced, there's a particular calibration that has to take place on that camera once the new glass is put in. Most of those calibrations are able to be done by a handheld device at people's locations. However, some higher end model vehicles have to be done in a shop. Probably 1 out of every 50 cars right now has to be done in a shop. For example, lower end Mercedes, something you can pick up for 50 grand, doesn't have to be done in the shop. A higher end Mercedes, like a $125,000 Mercedes, is going to be done in the shop. As time progresses, all vehicles will have those sensing capabilities, et cetera, which is either going to bring more cars to the shop or increase the technology in the handhelds. The technology of the handhelds has been increasing over time, so they've gotten away from a lot of the in-shop uses for the larger calibration equipment. And as time goes on, they'll probably move away from the in-shop use as well. At that point in time, there'll be windshields sitting in racks in the shop, waiting for the guys to pick them up and go out on the road and replace them. Good?
Thank you. Very good. That's the technical part. So basically, the reason that Mr. Clark's shop works so well is it has the drive-in bay where we can, if we have to service a vehicle on site, it can drive in, it can be serviced, and it can be removed. It's not, we will not have a line of vehicles waiting to get in because this is a by appointment business only. So maybe every other day, we might have a vehicle that actually has to come to the shop for the reasons that Ed just explained. So it'll be less traffic, but it will be a business opening in downtown area, which is what we really want to do. The front area has very nice office space. It's very nice office space there. We will either make that a Prudential Security satellite office or rent it out to another small business that needs office space. The upstairs has nice area for more office space and storage. It works really well. Mr. Weir has already got an offer on the table with Mr. Clark. They've accepted, or he's accepted, I'm sorry. So we really just need the approval from the BZA and open for any questions you may have.
Thank you. And notices of this public hearing have been sent out per state law, and an affidavit of mailing is on file. Got to read that into the record. We'll close this portion and open it up to anybody in the audience who want to speak on this. But before we do that, I got to read this letter from Mr. Clark, Doug Clark. He says, "To whom it may concern at the city of Romulus, I, Doug Clark, the owner of 36050 Goddard Road, Romulus, grant permission to the petitioner, Weir Holdings LLC, to speak on behalf of the property at the Board of Appeals meeting on Wednesday, August 3rd at 7 p.m. Okay? So, and if nobody in the audience cares to speak on this, we'll open it up to the board members for questions, comments. Did he give you permission to speak? No, I'm not.
Got it yet. Okay, so I'm Doug Clark. I'm the owner of the building in question. I also own a repair facility in Romulus, right next door to this facility. What a lot of you probably don't realize is how important his business is, calibration of windows. Probably most of you drive a car that when you have the cruise control on and get too close to a car, it slows down automatically. This is a lot about what his business does. If you ever have an issue with that, the only place you can really take it is the dealer. There's not a lot of these people around that do this thing, and the dealer will run you through the ringer on this. So it would be a good opportunity for somebody to open up a business in town that does this service. It should help a lot of people out financially, and that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
I would just like to say, this is an exciting business because running the parking facilities, I have to take my shuttles off-site. So it will be nice to have a company right here in Romulus that you have all these shuttle companies, and it is a pain to take them elsewhere. So this is exciting news. So thank you for bringing it to Romulus.
I got a quick question about the replacement of the windshield. That the electronics or the camera that's behind the rear view mirror, does that have to come off with the windshield?
No, it does not. It stays in place, but when you put the new windshield in, you have to calibrate that camera. It moves. You have to pry it away from it.
Just
You have to get
recenter
away from
it
the
and all that.
glass to remove the glass.
That's
So
accurate.
once everything's put back in place, it has to be recalibrated.
Now I know about my car. I guess pretty much everybody has one of those.
To the point that Mr. Clark and Ms. Allison made, the only other location that we are aware of that will do this windshield calibration is in Sterling Heights. That's a long haul from where we are. Bell Tire will do it, but again, I think that's in their Sterling Heights location only. So this will bring an opportunity for the people on this side of metropolitan Detroit. We're excited.
I just have one more question, and you did mention you will have some mobile units available as well, so a lot of things are done outside. If you do not need the calibration, you can have a mobile unit go, and they don't even come to your facility, you go to them, correct?
That is correct. We're thinking 3 technicians on duty. Their trucks will be parked at the site overnight, and then they'll come in the morning, they'll get their route, they'll take off, and they'll do the mobile parts where they can. The only time we'll bring the technicians actually bring the cars back to the shop. So it's not like we have customers lining up. So they will bring the car back to the shop if necessary, and then the technician will deliver the car back to the customer.
Great.
Thank you. Do you ever get damaged windshields that actually damage the camera, and that has to be replaced as well?
I am actually not currently, I haven't been in the business that long.
Oh.
So I haven't had that.
I haven't seen one of those windshields like that.
But I'm sure it does happen. I actually own a vehicle
That's
right now.
inevitable
that
as well.
A deer went through the windshield.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he took the camera and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure, yeah.
So, I do have one.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yeah, I do have one question, or a comment first and then a question. So I think as vehicles get smarter, I think you're going to have a lot more customers, not less. My one comment is, so if you read through the report, the recommendation by the city's planning consultant, MKSK, states that the use of the site shall be limited to office, well, one of the recommendations is, the use of the site should be limited to offices and windshield calibration. No windshield replacement or other automobile use shall be permitted without approval from the BZA. The process that you described sounds very much like there would be some windshield removals.
There would never be windshield replacement on site. Everything is done mobilely. If the unit, the handheld calibration unit, doesn't work on that particular windshield, at that point in time, they have to drive the vehicle to the shop, calibrate the camera, take the vehicle back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question through the chair for Carol. So let's just say, item number 3 here, there shall be no overnight parking except for 3 service trucks. Let's say in the future you need 5 trucks. What would,
They have to come back and get it amended.
okay, I just wonder how we would approach that.
Pretty simple process. We certainly understand with these things change. And they're similar to use variances. When you guys see use variances, they're, it's a process. And, that you can put as many conditions as you want. So what we do is we just sort of take it right from the application. Now, if you wanted to give them a little bit more flexibility, how many parking spaces are back there? One of the things that we do need is a sketch plan. We need a floor plan for building, and then we'll need so depending on how many parking spaces are there, if you wanted to say 3 to 5 trucks or something, if they think they're gonna grow and possibly need more, how many spaces are?
Just stay off the railroad.
I guess what we could do is take a look at that when the plan comes in, when the sketch plan comes in, to see how that parking's laid out. Here it is.
We believe there's 7 total.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that, it could be juggled, that if trucks are there overnight, employees are, kind of the coming and going. So that's something, if you want to give them a little bit more flexibility, go 3 to 5 or whatever you think.
Another statement on the trucks being parked overnight, as we become more comfortable with our technicians, very good possibility they'll be driving their vans home. So there's that also.
But we'll take the leeway of increasing our business and take 3 to 5 cars, thank you.
See, that seems reasonable.
Thank you, Jerry.
Carol, on this non-conforming use, was existing non-conforming.
The detail shop.
And this will be
So
non-conforming.
the detail shop's non-conforming, but it's a legal non-conforming. They
It'll
had a
just-
certificate of occupancy, and even though the use isn't allowed in the district, it's been there for a long time, and it came in before the ordinance changed. So
So it's just going to stay
it's,
not,
that's non-conforming. What they're asking to do is change one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. And as you read in the MKSK letter, they made a determination and a recommendation to you that based on the nature of this use, which they gave some great detail on, it's less intense than the current auto detail shop, and therefore it's getting the property closer to compliance for the CBD2 district. That's the, that's the area where the vehicle uses are allowed as special land uses on the fringe of the downtown, but in this area, the master plan, the downtown plan, and the ordinance all, kind of want to keep the auto stuff, sort of on the sides and keep the uses right down more in the core, for more retail and things. And so while this use isn't, it's not a restaurant or it's not, one of those more of those kind of uses, it's less than what it is now. And, with office users in there, they can be sublet. It's definitely more getting closer. So. So your approval then for the use to change would then, it would still be a non-conforming use, but it would be a legal non-conforming use because you've approved it.
Thank you.
I know, that ordinance, that ordinance.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve BZA 2022-005, Greg Weir Holdings, windshield replacement and calibration, the change of use of the zoning ordinance.
And that was subject to the summary items from the planner?
Correct.
All right.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Allison, supported by Mr. Lloyd, to approve the request by Weir Holdings, windshield replacement and calibration. That would be in accordance with Section 20.04, change in use of the zoning ordinance. It would remain non-conforming. We'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
I hope I don't have to bring my car in there with a broken windshield.
I'll call you when we're open.
Okay. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Let's see where we at here. All right, we have one more item on the agenda. It's for BZA-2022-006 for Amazon DTW1 fulfillment. The location is 32801 Ecorse Road. The parcel ID is 80-038-99-0001-700. And the variance request is from section 13.03 B3 for fences, the location and height of the zoning ordinance to allow a fence in the required front yard setback. While a 45-foot setback is required, a variance to allow a 40-foot parking setback was approved in 2017. The fence will be located 38 feet from the property line. And the location is, a project is installation of a fence at the Amazon DTW1 Fulfillment Center. Sir?
And may render a detailed fence.
Oh, okay.
This is black and white on the plan.
Okay.
It doesn't have justice.
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That
See
meets
if we
the
like
request
it.
for-
So, Mr. Chairman, basically, we're talking about a 3-foot variance
Let's see.
or 2-foot? 40-foot, 2-foot, okay.
No, it's a 45-foot setback,
No.
and now it'll be a 38-foot setback.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the zoning board of
Okay, go
appeals,
ahead.
Jim Butler with PEA Group.
I'm sorry?
Jim Butler with PEA Group. We are the civil engineers for the project. We were the initial engineers for the Amazon project when it was constructed several years ago. On the plan that's on the screen right now, it shows a red line. That red line is where we are proposing to install this fence. Currently, the facility does have a fence around it. We're just going to extend it at the drive access points along both Vining and Ecorse Road. We will be adding gates, automated gates at those locations to improve security at the facility. As it was mentioned in the staff report, the front yard requirement of greenbelt is 45 feet. There was a variance that was granted in 2017 to allow it to be reduced to 40 feet. In front of that parking area, and between the parking area and Ecorse Road, if you've been out there, there's a fairly significant berm that was installed as a part of the landscape plan. Another measure that was included with the plan that we put together, instead of just putting in the 2.5-inch caliber trees, we put in 4-inch caliber trees, so you get growth and have an immediate effect. This fence is going to be located 2 feet off the back of the curb line. So obviously the car would pull forward, it wouldn't hit the fence. So we are asking for a 2-foot variance to be allowed to place that fence 38 feet. it's going to be completely obscured from view because we're behind the berm. You just won't see it. And there's a mention of 4 feet. This fence has to be 6 feet to be of any value related to security. So we are asking for a fence to be 6 feet high, located 38 feet back from the road right away.
Oh, thank you.
Answer any questions. I have a contractor here and a representative from Amazon as well.
How many total, well, we'll close that portion.
Yes, sir.
Letters have been, notices of the public hearing have been sent out via first-class mail, and an affidavit is on file. And we'll close that portion and open it up to anybody in the audience who would care to speak on this, besides those guys. No, I'm just kidding. We'll open it up to the board members for questions or comments. How many total feet of fence are you guys putting up there around the facility?
Can you talk into that? I'm sorry, I don't even have all the microphones on. I'm hoping you're getting picked up over there.
Good evening, Jim Muirth, Ideal Contracting. I'm the project manager for the general contractor that's been contracted to do the work. It's approximately 1,600 lineal feet around the perimeter to address some security and safety concerns that Amazon's experienced.
Well, thank you. Any questions, comments? That'll set Amazon back a few bucks. I know they can afford
Well,
it.
when we tell them what kind of fence we
We've got
want,
prime time we
Mike.
can give in a couple days.
What is going on over there right now is more than just this fence improvement. The police department has been working with Amazon on some issues with trucks in the road, and the lot on the west side of the property that was approved, it's shown on the plan for vehicle parking, has been converted to trailer parking. So they're going to be submitting a plan and going through all that. The fence, we knew a variance was needed, so we said, boy, we got a big agenda, let's just tack it on and get it noticed and get that going. One of there are some provisions that we did add to this, and one of the things is the design of the fence, the type of fence that it is. We haven't had a chance to look at it. That normally does get done. Normally Planning Commission sees things, review for compliance with the ordinance, and then you guys get it. This one's ahead of time. It's not a big, it's basically an amendment to the existing plan. And so while we certainly appreciate that it might not be visible in areas, I would ask that maybe you let us have a little bit of leeway with the type of fence that it is, and if it is going to be visible, that we get one that's a little bit more decorative in nature. We certainly would have no problem bringing it back to you if you wanted to, if there were any issues with it, but, what are your thoughts on the fence?
I agree. I agree with Ms. Mays. The fence that's shown here doesn't really fit into the scope or the guidelines of our zoning ordinance. There are restrictions in the zoning ordinance or recommendations, and that's what we're looking to meet. So, yeah, this fence is shown here really doesn't fit the zoning ordinance requirements as shown. The style fence, I should say, not the fence itself, but the style, the look of it.
This is a style of fence you're going to be
That's the
putting?
one we're proposing, correct.
Well, what's the height of this fence, too?
6 feet.
6 feet?
And that's another thing that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
6 feet starts looking like security's needed, and we're trying to minimize some of that. So we've recommended 4 feet, but again, this has not been fully reviewed by the Administrative Review Committee, or, it may or may not have to go to Planning Commission. We don't think it will. We think it's just a minor site plan amendment, but, this board is the board that does have authority. We didn't get any of these details, on the application, so we had, we couldn't respond to it. So I guess there's one or two things you can do, is either maybe we'd ask you to either postpone it until we run this by, the ARC team, OHM and MKS gave a recommendation, or you approve it administratively with us trying to get closer to these requirements. Certainly, we bring it back and let you know what comes up if we need that, but we didn't really know what was, you know, we didn't see 6 feet. We didn't, sorry, Jim.
It's alive.
That probably
Is it coming from
Now,
up here?
this fence will, at least on the Vining Road side that I can see, will, you won't hardly even see it
You will
because of
not
the
see
berm
that.
and the landscaping.
Right,
And that's
it's
what we
not-
want
it's
to
in the open
verify.
landscape.
I'm
We
sorry?
want to verify that. We want to verify that. There's, you know,
Yeah.
we're not seeing any pictures tonight with it put in there, and, you know, all of this stuff goes out for review.
Yeah.
But again, we were not aware of it going, of being a 6-foot fence, nor, you know, that it was this type of fence, so.
Now, that would be 6-foot fence all the way around, out the
Yeah,
total.
currently there is a 6-foot fence, a chain link, right? Yeah, it's chain link, that's around the back of the building.
It's at the building. Yeah, it's in. It's in there. And that we don't care about. We're concerned about Vining Road and Ecorse Road, needless to say.
I mean, we'll certainly work with staff to find something that's, you know, amenable to them.
I think we can come up with something. I think if you give us the ability to look at it administratively and come up with something, if we can't, we'll bring it back.
Could we approve the setback pending your approval?
Yep.
You have to meet ARC's approval of the fence before it can move forward?
Yep, what we can do is this motion that's here, you know, what we could do is, you know, the fence shall be limited to 4 to 6 feet in height, or it says here, or is determined by the BZA. So change it to the fence shall be limited to 4 to 6 feet in height, as determined by ARC. And then that'll happen during the ARC review. And then the next one where it says the fence must be decorative in nature as determined by ARC.
Because I don't find this fence decorative in nature at all.
Right, that's the point
At all.
he's making.
So, but if
Right.
you're willing to work with the ARC to change the area where it's visible, if it's not visible, in my opinion, that's one thing, but this is certainly not decorative.
Right.
This
We
is what
just
was
let-
proposed to Amazon. They were leaning away from a chain link, right? I mean, they were originally talking about a chain link. I think the fence around the perimeter on the outside in the rear is chain link, and they thought that looked more industrial. I tend to agree with you. This is not what I would pick, but I think they were trying to go to something that was decorative. So on their behalf, I'm sure they're willing to meet your.
Well, this is
It's
certainly
getting
better
closer.
than chain
I
link.
know we talked about chain link last year.
I'm sorry.
It's getting closer.
So we're just going to let administration figure this out.
Right. And if we can't, we'll bring it back to you.
I have a-
Or we can work with administration, get something, and before it gets approved, bring it back to you for final approval. Either way.
Just question through the chair to Carol. So, and the petitioner, I guess, it's a dual question. So you mentioned automatic gates. How's that going to do for traffic stacking? Is it for exit only, automatic gates, or how's that impact entering?
Amazon's intent is to have those gates open during shift change, right? The gates will be open during shift change. People will come and go as they please. And after the shift is started, the gates will close to secure their vehicles and their belongings. So there should be no stacking of vehicles. If somebody wants to enter, they gotta go leave early, or their shift is over and those gates are closed, they'll pull to those gates and they will open automatically, so it will be exit from any of the gates. If they show up and that gate is closed, they will go to the main entrance where there'll be a security guard in a guard shack that's set back off the roadway, so there'll be no stacking there. So that's their goal and their intent, and I think we've submitted that to the City of Romulus for review, and we've had a couple of meetings on that as well.
So what's been going on out there is the employees' cars have been pillaged?
So that's my understanding. I have no firsthand, that's their reason for wanting, they've had some break-ins. I think they've had a couple cars stolen, and they're trying to secure that. And Amazon probably.
Yeah, and I don't want to suggest, we're not putting this up because we don't think Romulus is not a safe place to do business. This is changes that we're making at a lot of sites. It's largely focused preventative nature. We had a shooting in Illinois recently in the parking lot. So it's just
What's your name?
Oh, sorry. Kyle DiGiulio, Economic Development Policy at AMPA.
For the record. Thanks, Kyle.
So, I'd say bring it back to us.
So,
Work with ARC, bring it back to us.
oh, yeah.
I think Jim's got.
Jim,
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Muir, there was a plan submitted. It did show, I believe, the westernmost drive or entrance drive on Ecorse Road, correct, is where the guard shack, the guard post would be located?
It's the center one, yes.
Right. And that was proposed during an ARC meeting. And also there would be a water and sanitary to that guard shack. So that you would have 24-hour operation if needed. And I know that the fire chief, fire marshal was involved, and the police department were involved as well.
And this is all going to get reviewed further when they officially submit, for these amendments and these things going on here.
Yeah, I believe the variance, right now, you're just looking for the variance for the
fence.
setbacks.
Right, for the, yeah.
So we'd have to go back, we're going back to the planning commission for the purposes of.
Maybe not.
Right.
We'll see.
Our site plan will be reviewed.
It may not warrant going back. I'm still leaning towards it being a minor change that I think we can do administratively. But they have been working very closely with the police department. Jim, you can probably comment more. Were you saying something about the signs? There were new signs that were installed?
Well, there was signage to be installed for the traffic flow as well. And I think that was, for the most part, it was for the traffic flow and the security at the entranceways and exitways. But correct me if I'm wrong, but now, when you said at shift change, the gates would be open, but isn't it, aren't they on a magnetic or a sensor, an underground sensor, correct? If a vehicle exiting the facility, the gates would automatically open?
Yes, and an employee can use any exit to go home or at the end of their shift. And when at shift change, the gates will be open, so there will be no stacking or cars piling up. It'll close for the majority of the shift and be open at shift change.
Okay. And if the fire department did need access and for some odd reason the gates were closed, there would be a Knox box available to them, so.
And they'll all be controlled from the security shack and the security desk. So those are manned 24/7, I believe, and they will have access to be able to remotely open those gates.
Thank you.
so we want to, can we approve this with the provision that it's a more decorative type fence, and it's from 4 to 6 feet?
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the more decorative, I think we still want to see these areas where it's not visible.
So they will have to come
If it's
back.
not visible,
Just do it administratively.
yeah, then we can make that determination administratively.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think in general, yes, we want a more decorative fence. As Jim says, it doesn't really comply with
Make it
the
pretty.
intent of the ordinance, so.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lloyd?
So just a quick question. How tall is the berm?
4 to 6 feet, something.
Yeah.
The reason,
With trees on
The trees on top.
yeah, the reason why I ask is because, I live pretty close to it, so I drive past it probably every day. And I would be shocked if you don't see a 6-foot fence. I'm okay with the proposal to change it from 4 to 6 feet, but the statement of you won't see it at 6 feet, I don't know if that's true. But, I'm okay with the recommendation if we, kind of vote on it and then throw it over to ARC to make sure it's visibly nice.
So just some additional information. The fence does not go the entire way on Vining Road. The fence stops after the first, I'll say, northernmost entrance. You can see the red line, so it doesn't. So wherever you're driving and you may be able to look into the trucking gate, that fence won't go the entire distance down Vining. It'll stop at that first entrance.
Yeah, I think I'm probably speaking for most, but the larger concern would probably be Ecorse because that's the longer segment of the road, right?
Exactly. That's where it is.
I think it'd be better security with a 6-foot.
Oh, I agree. I was kind of
And I
chuckling
think
to myself,
that's-
what are you going to secure with a 4-foot fence?
Yeah.
But
I want to put that into a motion.
Well, if a motion's in order, we work on this.
So, sure, I'll give it a shot.
Go ahead. Gotta do
So,
it sometime.
so with the motion to approve with the exceptions that we made, the change from the 4-foot standard to a 4 to 6 foot.
So this is what I would recommend doing. So these items, that are on page 3. So number 1 would read, the fence shall be limited to 4 to 6 feet in height as determined by ARC. Number 2 would read, the fence must be decorative in nature as determined by ARC. Number 3 would say, any landscaping to be impacted by the fence installation shall be replaced. Number 4, final review of the site plan. Ooh, that's a big typo there, by ARC. And number 5, upon ARC approval, a fence permit from the building department must be issued prior to installation.
Just say so moved.
If that works.
Yeah.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Be quiet. Good, thank
We
you.
have a motion by Mr. Lloyd, supported by Mr. Morris, excuse me, to approve the variance request for the height, or for the fence at, let me get my act together here.
You're doing good.
At Amazon DTW1 fulfillment at 32801 Ecorse Road. Parcel ID is 80038-99-0001-700. And it's for the BZA 2022-006. Got that in there. Anyway, the variance is from Section 13.03B3 for fences. The location and height of the zoning ordinance to allow a fence in the required front yard setback. While a 45-foot setback is required, a variance to allow a 40-foot parking setback was approved in 2017. The fence will be located 38 feet from the property line. And got the project. And that would be subject to the items, the summary items of,
On page 3 as amended.
pardon me?
On page 3,
The
as amended.
items on page 3 as amended.
Good. I hope we got that on record.
Yeah, we're good.
Anyway, with that said, we'll take a roll call vote.
It's all on tape.
Mr. Frederick? I'm sorry, Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Mr. Morris.
Mrs. Morris.
What I got?
Mr. Morris, second.
Oh, all right, Mr. Morris. Looking at the wrong note here. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Ms. Allison?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That variance request has been approved finally.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for coming.
Make it look pretty.
For what it's worth, these are new glasses and I can hardly see through them.
You need to go back.
All right,
Bye.
Okay.
all right, where are we at here?
I think we're done, almost.
Okay. Item 6 is old business. Any old business?
No
It's
old
all old
business.
business anymore. Is it new business? No new business.
No new business.
Communications, we have the city planner's status report, which is, as usual, is pretty neat.
Bunch of
Some good stuff on it.
Yep, we've got a lot going,
Yeah.
a lot going.
Item 9 is discussion. Any discussion? I think we had quite a bit tonight.
We did. As of right now, there are no cases in for September. However, there's a couple looming out there. We don't publish, actually, we would need it in really, really soon. So it's very unlikely you'll have a meeting in September. But as soon as we know, we will let you know. We will know that next week. But right now, no cases.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Allison for sitting in tonight.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's good to see you all.
Item 10 is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Allison, supported by Mr. Frederick to adjourn the meeting. take a roll call vote. Ms. Allison?
Yes?
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. This meeting is adjourned. Now, if I can...